The substitute teacher had barely turned around to write her name on the board when a crumpled paper ball hit her in the back of the head. Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I just sat there in the third row, frozen, because that teacher was my mother. That morning, my mom made me promise, at school, treat me like any other substitute teacher. Nobody at school knew we were related, and she didn't want me dragged into any trouble. Then she dropped her chalk. When she bent down to pick it up, I saw her hand shaking, but I still forced myself to stay seated. Then Bryce stood up. He crushed his worksheet into a ball and threw it at the trash can right behind my mom's head. The whole class clapped like he had just scored a goal. My mom tried to say, "Open your books to page 40, but her voice was so small and shaky, nobody even listened. Then Bryce walked up to her desk, pretending to grab a tissue, and knocked the entire box onto the floor on purpose. When my mom had to kneel down and pick up every tissue while everyone laughed, something inside me snapped. I stood up so fast my chair slammed backward. The whole room went silent. I looked straight at Bryce and said, "Stop it. She didn't do anything to you." Bryce turned around and said, "What did you just say?" And I said slowly, I said, "Sit down and leave her alone." For a second, nobody moved. Then Bryce looked away, gave a nervous laugh, and walked back to his seat. I walked to the front and started picking up the tissues. Then one girl joined me, then another student, then another. My mom stood up, turned back to the board, and wrote page 40. This time, her hand didn't shake. After class, I thought she would be disappointed. I thought I had broken my promise. But my mom smiled and said, "You didn't break your promise. I told you to treat me like a normal teacher, and today, you did, because no teacher deserves to be humiliated like that." If you believe staying silent is not always the right thing to do, comment respect and subscribe for more emotional stories.